Hello, hello! I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. Mile 24! The end is just over the horizon, but it is not in sight yet. Meanwhile, your body is betraying itself, ready to collapse mere minutes from the finish line. Which brings us to today's topic: what makes a great betrayal? When it's both a surprise and obvious. A betrayal should be foreshadowed and broadcasted without being explicitly foreshadowed or broadcasted. I don't enjoy reading books where the blatant villain is alongside the heroes for the entire story and they're too oblivious to recognize what's going on. However, I do thoroughly enjoy when a villain is working alongside the heroes and they show the subtlest touches of their future murderous intent. Spoilers ahead for the 2-decade-old video game Chrono Cross, George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire, Bob Proehl's Nobody People, and Attack on Titan, specifically the ending, which has not yet been animated. For any anime-only watchers out there, I'll put the time to skip to on screen, so that you won't be spoiled on the ending to Attack on Titan. Spoilers begin now. A hero falling from grace to become evil or choosing to harm others can be believable, except when their actions defy everything we know about the character. Attack on Titan and Game of Thrones ruined two main characters by having them fall from grace because that's what the plot required. In both cases, the main characters suffered extreme circumstances as young children, and that shaped their entire arcs moving forward. Eren from Attack on Titan watched his mother be eaten alive as his home was destroyed by Titans, which are giant mindless humans. Across the Song of Ice and Fire series, Dany was sold into slavery and clawed her way up to become a benevolent ruler, which is why she was such a fan favorite. Eren and Dany eventually committed acts of genocide against innocent people, making the worst betrayal feel like it was against the audience for having watched that sudden shift. There were circumstances for their actions, but these never felt earned, and ultimately the respective series were ruined due to how these falls from grace were portrayed. The one thing Eren and Dany stood for was the preservation of human lives, often going so far as to disregard their own morals so long as it ensured the larger populace's safety. So yeah, general guideline to writers: don't have us follow along with a sympathetic character only to turn them into a monster who goes against everything they once stood for, all so that they can die in a dramatic fashion at the story's finish line. Instead, these are my 5 favorite types of betrayals, along with masterful examples which caught me off guard and evolved their stories for the better. Number 1, villains in our midst. I thrive on stories where villains are hidden amongst the heroes until they decide to reveal themselves and spring their trap. A perfect example of villains hiding amongst the heroes can be found early on in the groundbreaking and visually stunning series Attack on Titan. Really quickly, Attack on Titan is a military drama which takes place in a country surrounded by a series of 3 walls to protect the population from those giant, mindless, wandering titans. There's a branch of the military called the Survey Corps, which is equipped with grappling hook belts so that they can swing about from buildings, trees, and walls to strike at the nape of the neck of those titans and take them down. Essentially, the action is a series of Spider-Man-like maneuvers, and I cannot praise the first 3 seasons enough. Earlier, I mentioned that Eren was traumatized by watching his mother be eaten alive and his home city destroyed by titans. That event was triggered by 2 people who appeared to be Eren's friends and comrades within the Survey Corps. They fought alongside each other and saved one another's lives multiple times, proving that this series is steeped in a large gray area for how it handles opposite sides in a war. Before the pair revealed themselves to be traitors, another one was discovered. Keen observers would recognize that these 3 were often seen together. The clues were all there, but the action kept me distracted, and I never would have suspected that the peaceful and timid boy would be the traitor responsible for tearing down the wall and beginning the Titan conflict at the start of the story. In other words, bravo for surprising me. Better yet, Rewatching the series made those tiny hints of what's to come so obvious. Number 2, missing pieces. Betrayals work best when all the puzzle pieces are aligned and assembled for readers, and they still are caught off guard. The next best scenario is when most of the pieces are arranged in the background that hint at the upcoming betrayal. That's the case in Bob Proehl's duology, consisting of nobody people and somebody people, which really is one large adult X-Men story. In fact, plenty of X-Men characters were paid homage to or directly copy and pasted into these novels. Early on, we come to realize the villain influencing others has ties to the school the main characters attend. This makes it obvious that the reader would recognize who they are. In writing this way, I wasn't disappointed to find out who the traitor was, because for most of the book, I considered any of the main characters to potentially be that traitor. By missing one or two critical details, which get filled in the second novel, I couldn't know the identity of the traitor beforehand. Even when they were revealed, something still felt off due to the lack of details. This story went a step further with mind control, because that is a go-to plot point for X-Men, and it fit here to tell an all-new story. In order for this to work, there needs to be justification that gets explained eventually to show how the traitor was able to lie to everyone for so long. Number 3, missed it by that much. These types of betrayals hit so hard because had events played out slightly differently, the traitor would utterly lose, and all the problems would have been solved by mid-novel. Enter Game of Thrones. The first major betrayal was Littlefinger secretly working for Cersei to imprison Eddard Stark. Had Cersei lost this initial political match, I feel like most of the problems across the realms would have peacefully been resolved. Eddard Stark may have even been capable of bringing a smooth transition for Dany to reclaim her throne. Then again, Cersei wouldn't be Cersei if she didn't cling to power for her and her family at any cost. So, who knows? There were many other betrayals across the Song of Ice and Fire series, but that first one stung the most, both for how abrupt it felt and for how much it caught me personally off guard. By the time we rolled to the red and purple weddings, I would have been more surprised if there wasn't a major betrayal and killing. Because George R.R. Martin does not let us have nice things. Is there a simple solution to bring peace to the realms with a righteous and rightful heir? Congratulations, everyone involved is dead, and now chaos will ensue. I hope you like ice zombies, because they are breaking through the wall in the north and are invading as we speak. Number 4, did they do a betrayal? This traitor is so charismatic and sometimes reasonable that their betrayal doesn't feel like a betrayal. That's right, I am rooting for the villains. Except in this upcoming example, where the traitor performed an irredeemable act in a downward spiral well after his initial betrayal. In Robin Hobb's Liveship Trilogy, even after the self-proclaimed pirate king Kenneth betrays everyone around him to take control of a living ship, he still felt like he might become a hero. Up until his final betrayal, almost everyone praises him, despite the bloody trail he carved up and down the coast. And lastly, number 5, understanding why. This betrayal is revealed early, typically within a prologue. Then the story shifts to explain why the traitor acted in a certain way. An exemplary instance occurred in the video game Chrono Cross. Within the initial prologue moments, you, the main character, are revealed in a cutscene to have stabbed one of your first party members. The next 10 or so hours of gameplay revolve around trying to solve the mystery of why you would ever want to harm the girl named Kid, among other plot points. When you get to that point in the game, the obvious answer is that you wouldn't want to harm her. Thus, when you and the villain swap bodies, it's unexpected in a way which I normally wouldn't like. However, this resolves the mystery in a way which makes sense given the ominous foreshadowing of the prologue. Admittedly, this does feel forced and is one of many valid criticisms for the game's plot and pacing. I still raise Chrono Cross up on a pedestal of must-play games, simply for its stunning island-themed music. I also appreciate the unique battle mechanics, interesting early plot points, and complex themes addressed along the way, though these do become convoluted by the end. Anyways, back to writing. If I were to create a similar prologue within my story, I would focus on the narrator's confusion at watching themselves stab their friend. Then the story would have room to build up the tension of why, even though by the time we reach that point in the story, the only logical answer would be a Freaky Friday body swap. The question of why would drive the tension and plot and carry my interest. Those are my 5 favorite types of betrayals, along with prime examples of each. The trick to pull off worthy betrayals is to not perform character assassinations, meaning avoid having the traitor also betray themselves. I would rather have a predictable ending than the haphazard mess we got for Season 8 of Game of Thrones, but that rant is best left for another day. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write. What is your favorite betrayal in a story? How do you write believable traitors? Do you agree with my opinions, or is everything I said wrong? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode, then please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. The buttons are right over there. Join the Running to Write community on all social media to share your thoughts. See you next time. Until then, write the traitor who was Agatha all along.